questions on this here? Okay.
Are you going to put this spreadsheet up on the...
Oh yeah, and if I don't, send me email. I'll put it up. But sometimes, you know, I get distracted. Have I ever gotten distracted here? Yeah. That's what I like to hear. Okay. Let me summarize what we've done so far. Paired data. Pair means two. Two things associated with one thing. In the case of the prices of homes or the houses, we had two numbers, paired data, the number of square feet, and the price at which the house was sold. We represent that, or what we do is we create a scatter plot. We're looking to see whether or not the graph tells us something about the data. For scatter plots, which are here along, or appear to lie along a line, an equation of a line which nicely passes through the data may be determined. That's what we just did. We found the least squares regression line. So the least squares regression line is determined from the data itself. We don't need any theory. We just get the equation line from the data itself. The square of the correlation, R² indicates how well the line passes through the data. If R is squared is close to 1, that means it very nicely goes through the data. The further or the closer it is 0, the less well it goes through the data. Now the residual, ignore this for the moment, is the observed minus the predicted. Symbolically, it's y minus y hat. And surprise, surprise, we represent residual by the letter E. Well, the reason for that is R is already reserved for the correlation coefficient. Can't use R. What does E stand for? Actually, E stands for error. Okay, it's not strictly speaking the best choice, but what we can do is we can think of the residual as the error. That's another way of thinking about it. It's not a good way, but. So we use the letter E because we can't use R, and so we might as well use E. Okay, now, the residuals have a standard deviation as well, but it's computed in a slightly different way. Standard deviation of the residuals, S sub E. Here, E again represents the residuals. The reason we don't use R is R is already reserved for the correlation coefficient. So S sub E means the standard deviation of the residuals. How do we compute that? Well, we take the square root of something, okay? Anytime we take a standard deviation, we compute something and we take the square root of it, the something we compute is actually the variance. How do I compute this quantity here? Well, you see the letter sigma here, that means sum. And you have E squared. So you take the residuals, every residual you have, you square that value, you add them all together, and then you divide by n minus 2. Why not n minus 1? In statistics, we like to confuse students. It seems that way. Now, there's a good reason. Okay. When you compute the sample standard deviation, we divide by n minus 1, right? Now, when we computed the sample standard deviation,